Welcome back.
Welcome! Welcome back to another episode of Me, Myself, and I, an official confession stand podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hannah/Spuds.
I'm the other one of your hosts, Sarah/Carbs.
And we also have Sam Swags.
Sam Swags.
And today, what will we be talking about today?
We will be talking about the first part of A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. And that's going to be chapters 1 through 10.
This is a beefy-ass set of chapters. Lots of stuff going on. And we left Mist and Fury at a pretty big cliffhanger. So, at the end of Mist and Fury, Feyre goes back with Tamlin to the Spring Court. And,
womp, womp, womp.
And Nesta and Elaine go with Rhysand, Cassian, and Azriel, the Inner Circle, sorry,
the whole
thank you.
homies pack.
Yeah, the homies, back to the Night Court.
And they're Fae now.
Yes,
They have been made like Feyre has.
Thank you for adding that. Yeah, now Nesta and Elaine have been thrown into the cauldron and have come out Fae. And also, Elaine got some man candy because she got, like, the mating bond snapped with her and Lucian. So
Such bad timing.
I know.
We'll still, hold that against him.
I still am grouchy that he even said anything.
See, I feel so differently about it. I feel like he was in shock. I think that he kind of, felt dumbfounded, and I don't think he meant to say it out loud. That's what I got when I read that section.
I would much rather interpret it that way because her negative reaction to it and the trauma that she's going to associate with this bond is not great.
You want to know how I read it? I read it this is an experience we can relate to. Getting in the Uber after trying to, get ready for a night out, you finally get there, and you're halfway towards downtown, and then one of your friends goes, "Oh, I left my license." That's how I felt when he was like, "Oh, she's my mate." I felt like he was very blindsided by it. That's literally how I read it. It just seemed like he said it like he wasn't thinking at all. I think he was probably in shock because of his history, that I don't think he realized that Elaine, of all people, would be his mate.
Well, I think it's always shocking when you don't know somebody and then you're like, wow, I'm romantically connected to you for the end of time.
It doesn't have to be romantic, technically.
Well, I'm sorry. I am connected with you spiritually, I suppose. I don't really know.
I read it as dumbfounded. I don't think he was saying it like, "She's my mate." You know what I mean? When I read it.
No, well, I'm not saying it was a dominance, 5, when you steal the front, or shotgun. I don't think it was calling shotgun for the first
dibs.
Yeah, calling dibs. I don't think it was that's my mate, that's her, that's the one. I called it.
It's like BoJack Horseman.
Yeah, right.
And what was it? Neil McBeal, the Navy SEAL.
But I think I get what you're saying by that it sort of
I think it can be
of
both, though.
Yeah.
I think it can be a dumbfounded reaction, but it can still be really bad timing.
Oh, it was terrible timing. But it's like being in the Uber and you forget your license. You're like, "Ah, shit, I wish I would have realized that earlier."
Sarah's still not convinced. I hear you.
I don't know. I wasn't. So it's funny because I feel like you guys have a very strong reaction to it. But when I look back at it, I don't have any reaction to it because I was like, "Oh, that must have sucked for him."
See, I don't really know how, the way that they characterize a mating bond snapping into place, it's like being struck by lightning or something like that. It's really intense.
Yeah, but Rhysand reacted much better and he just, peaced out.
That's
Rhysand.
true.
But that's Rhysand. Lucian is not as strong as Rhysand. We all know this. He's like the Ron Weasley of ACOWAR. Come on.
God.
You know what it is? I got a little love for Lucian. I can't hate him all the time. I hated him when he tried to bring Feyre back, but I don't know. In this moment, I don't feel as strongly as you guys.
I didn't hate him for doing that because I knew he was doing it for Tamlin. And he genuinely believed that Feyre was kidnapped. I don't think he did it to hurt Feyre in any way.
I just got a little love for him.
Okay, well then, so, talking about how we felt before, what are our thoughts on Lucian in the first 10 chapters of Wings and Ruin?
Poor kid.
So bad.
Oh.
See, now you're on my page. He just seems like such a pawn who has no idea what he's doing, and he thinks that he's doing everything that's right, or like he acts with such genuine intentions and just fucks everything up.
Everything is such a trauma response to him. As you like dig into, I feel like him and Tamlin's relationship, is you see it crumbling in these first couple chapters. Like they are just both so trauma bonded and reactive to each other at the same time.
I feel like Lucian's relationship strictly with Feyre has gone through this huge evolution. Like, at first, in the first book, he had to kind of keep her at a distance, knowing the truth about who she was and, like, not getting too involved in that. So that's why there was sort of this wall with him when it came to Feyre. And then in the second book, Tamlin is so in need of his attention, so he's not really, although he sees Feyre, she's not a priority to him like Tamlin is, because they're so trauma bonded, like you said. Whereas now after this, like, and I don't feel like Lucian is getting closer to Feyre to get to know about Elaine a little bit more. I do think there is some overlap there, but I think this is genuine. I think he genuinely feels like that did not go down the way
I just feel like they had such a good friendship that was, had everything not happened and all these outside forces, I think that they would be best friends. And it's just, it's one of those friendships where it's like, we could have had a great friendship had life not gotten in the way. And it's almost like they're friends trying to hold on to whatever little strips and shreds of connection are left there.
It's those childhood friends that are in college that still, like, check in with each other, but there's just nothing in common anymore other than their history.
So I don't know. I feel he's just kind of like, I don't hate him. I don't love him. I kind of just feel bad for him.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think that he makes really stupid decisions, but I think that he genuinely thinks he's making the right decision off of what he believes is happening. And it's just sad that he doesn't really know anything.
Right.
But, and I think it's really interesting how he kind of fesses up to his mistakes, though, in a way that I don't think he would have in the first two books, with not only what happened, not only the way Feyre was treated by Tamlin in book 2, but then it compounded with Nesta and Elaine's being forced into the cauldron the way that they were.
Well, and also you have to realize he's put in he also, along with Elaine, is put in a very uncomfortable situation right now. He is mated to someone who is engaged to a human who hates Fae. I feel the way I do about Lucian.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
He just got the, like, short end of the stick all the time.
And he doesn't have a home.
No. And he doesn't really have a family either.
Which we'll unpack even further as we get farther into this book about his family.
He's the Jon Snow.
Oh, he is. That's actually a great comparison.
Yeah. I hope he comes out on top at the end of the series.
I hope so too.
Something good better.
He needs a win. He really needs a win.
I would rather
Facebook group give Lucian a win.
Yeah.
I would rather him get a redemption arc than fucking Tamlin.
100%.
Like,
I hope that he gets a redemption arc where he has to take down Tamlin.
Ooh.
We're here for it, right, Hannah? Let's go.
That's
right,
naughty.
Sarah, call me up.
That's naughty.
So how much has changed since Feyre has come back to the Spring Court, Sarah?
At the Spring Court or with Feyre specifically?
Both.
Whichever
one you want to unpack first.
Well, Feyre seems to sort of be going back to, I mean, I don't want to say she's back to normal per se, because before, like, we don't really know what Feyre normal is right now. It's changed so much. But she's definitely playing a game. Like, she's placing the chess pieces. Like,
she's Swiper the Fox.
Yeah. So there is, we know she's pretending. I think she's definitely coming off to Tamlin like, oh, like, I'm a victim of being manipulated and brainwashed and blah, blah, blah. So I can't be intimate with you. So that's why, like, she's putting up this, like, sort of distance with her and Tamlin.
I wondered how she was going to pull that off with Tamlin when she got back to the Spring Court. I was like, is she going to still fuck around with him?
She's an actress.
I know. I was like, how is she... But, like, because Tamlin is so temperamental, how is he going to buy her not wanting to fuck him?
You know
And
what?
it worked, and it was fucked up, but it worked.
I think that, I don't know, when I view her with Tamlin now that she's grown and she's blossomed into the beautiful butterfly that she is now, I feel like the way that she views Tamlin is as if he's a child throwing a tantrum. Mm-hmm. And you just gotta kind of, like, weave through it.
And it's funny you say that, because like, 5 pages into the first chapter, her talking about when she has the alarm raised, when Tamlin's approaching, and all the powers that she's using, she comes such a long way between her training with Cassian, her training with Rhysand, tapping into what all of her abilities are. She is, like, right off the bat, I mean, page 8, she's a totally different person than she was even at the end of the last book, in my opinion.
What I don't understand about Tamlin, and I think about this when it comes to at least this set of chapters, is sort of his behavior towards Feyre. It's like she's this eggshell type thing, or like she's just so fragile, which is the reverse of what happened in the second book, whereas Tamlin was extremely fragile, and Feyre was so scared to, like, not disturb him, or not, like, because he was just about, he had the court was falling apart, and he was the one that was, like, on the edge of, like, exploding or crumbling up.
Well, see, I feel like she was the same way in book 1. I feel like she's always been treated as the eggshell, at least in Tamlin, and she was in the previous book, and now she's not. Now she's like the, what do they call those fancy eggs?
Oh, the Fabergé?
She's like, she went from a fragile, yolkless eggshell to a Fabergé.
Yeah, but the first book she was fragile because of her mortality. The second book she was fragile because of her mental state. Like, and
Tamlin's projections of what the expectations of her.
Yeah.
I just assumed they were both fragile the whole time. Honestly.
No, I kind of see where Sarah's going with that. Like, you finally see the power shift, where Tamlin had the power in book 1 and 2, and you see the opposite, that Tamlin is playing into her hands instead, which is really interesting. And I think fueled by the fact that she has more power and she actually knows how to harness it in a way that she was not told to harness in book 2 after she was made.
Right? He doesn't know about the powers.
They suspect it.
Yeah, they suspect.
But they don't know that she was getting trained. So they think that she's still that little fucking wallflower.
But a wee fly going towards the lantern.
No, and I was so concerned at the beginning of this book that, like, Tamlin might use manipulation to get with Feyre. I was really worried that he was going to be like, I saved you, let's bang. And I was...
keep with that abusive track that we've seen with him already.
Right.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen.
Thank God.
And of course, you know, like you said, I feel like Tamlin can tell also that there's a power shift. Like, I feel like he's aware of this. And
but he also has to make it up to her because he fucked up. So it's not even that she's physically more powerful, 'cause she is, but he screwed up so badly to get her back.
Well, yeah.
So he is...
We think about the last time that he even saw her was when she, like, spontaneously combusted.
Well, he didn't even see her react. Like,
But he came back to the aftermath.
Yeah.
Which, that was
that
was another thing I loved. It was one of the first tabs I made in the book, was the description of her room that Tamlin destroyed after she left. I looked into my room once the day I returned. Shattered furniture, shredded bedding, clothes strewn about as if it had gone... He'd gone looking for me inside the armoire. No one, it seemed, had been allowed in to clean. But it was the vines, the thorns, that had made it unlivable. My old bedroom had been overrun with them. They curled and slithered over the walls and twined themselves against the debris as if they'd clawed off the trusses beneath my window, as if 100 years passed and not months. My room was now a tomb.
What a metaphor.
What a metaphor.
And, like, everything about it. Like, the bedroom being a tomb, the death of their relationship, the thorns. I mean, that's the title of the first book. Like, a very full circle. Like, if that's not, like, the end of their relationship, the final nail in that coffin, I don't know what is.
I have a quick question. You had kind of answered this earlier. What were your, like, fears coming into this book?
My fears were that she was going to have to sleep with Tamlin. And also that Ianthe fucked him in the process. Like, was that no one else's fear that Ianthe, like, seduced Tamlin in the process? I'm, like, so surprised that did not happen.
You know what, I was actually afraid that... I felt like because we'd seen so much from Feyre and Rhysand's point of view and watching, like, them go to the summer court and all of that stuff, I was afraid that maybe their heads had gotten too big and she thought she could manipulate the situation. And I was so afraid that she was gonna, like, let something slip and be caught off guard and just be screwed, you know, and then have to have the whole inner circle come.
Rescue
That
her.
I actually, the whole time that she was in the spring court, I had this uneasy feeling of something waiting behind, like, the curtain. You know what I mean?
I was wondering if the inner circle was going to get involved at all, and I'm kind of glad / impressed that Pharaoh 8 was able to single-handedly pull off the destruction of the spring court like that. Like, that took so much patience, so much, like micro moves that nobody noticed, only except for the Prince and Princess of Hybern, which we can talk about in a minute. But, like, even they only saw, like, a fraction of everything that she was putting in place.
But, you know, I was so afraid because, like, you know, in a lot of these fantasy books, she's kind of the damsel in distress. And so I think it was really cool and relieving for me to watch her grow as a person because in my mind, I was like, oh no, does she know what she just walked into? Maybe they know some stuff because we haven't heard anything from them other than when Lucian came to try and get her while she was training. And so I had this bad vibe, especially after them being in connection with the King of Hybern. I was like, what if Hybern's in on this and this is I had this whole catastrophized situation in my head the whole time I was reading it. I was so anxious reading it.
Well, because Hybern was clearly brilliant enough to be those 2 steps ahead of everybody. So he was he was 2 steps ahead of the Night Court. He was a step ahead of the Spring Court because of Ianthe. So yeah, like, he totally could have planted something else on top of it all.
I wasn't necessarily afraid of Tamlin and Lucian doing something, but I was afraid that she walked into a trap thinking she's playing one chess game when really she's part of a huge chess tournament.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just had this fear the whole time I was reading it, so I kind of sped right through it.
I wasn't worried about Feyre at all. Like, that girl's
She's a sneaky bitch.
Yeah, I'm like, that girl's cocky. I'm like, she'll be fine. I was honestly more worried about the people at the spring court. But I was concerned that she would feel like she had to, like, make Tamlin believe that he was, when it came to, like, sexual manipulation, my thought was she was going to make him believe that he was that. And
sorry, I just had a thought. Because she can go in and do the, what is it? It's Damati. What if she just convinced him and put in his brain that they had sex?
I feel
She
like
should have, honestly. She could have saved herself a lot of time.
I feel like
Girl, give me calls when you need tips. I got you.
I think the problem is because Tamlin is a High Lord, he would know if someone was up against his mental shields.
I don't know, because I think the Prince and Princess totally were, like, literally stomping all over their fucking brains this first 10 chapters.
They weren't.
Yes, they were, because Feyre called them out. She literally called them out and scratched a talent against their mental shields. There was a scene where they were manipulating.
Because she's a boss ass bitch.
The Prince and Branna and Dagden were definitely using their Damati manipulation at one point.
There was a moment where she feels them reaching out for them, and then she puts mental shields up on Ianthe, Lucian, and Tamlin.
Right, but Tamlin didn't.
I guess he wouldn't.
That's what I'm arguing. Like,
okay,
so if he didn't pick up on their manipulation, then he wouldn't have picked up on Feyre's.
Yeah, I mean, especially when it's someone that he feels like he can trust and that she's kind of this weakling that he can manipulate. He obviously has felt that from the beginning. Mm-hmm. If she put into his mind that they're having, like, mind-blowing sex every other night or whatever, like, who's to say that he wouldn't actually believe it?
If she just wore a skimpy pajama, got in and out for before and after he fell asleep or whatever, like, she wouldn't have to do shit. The biggest offense
she could have done. Well, I mean, she did put on a skimpy nightgown, and
her driving that wedge between Lucian and Tamlin was just chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm.
It was perfect. Like, of course she's gonna favor Lucian just naturally after what Tamlin did.
Because he's a good boy. He's a stupid boy, but he's a good boy.
It's almost like having to make amends with like getting along with your in-laws too. Like he's mated with her sister. He's gonna be a part of her life whether she likes it or not.
He's very much like my brother-in-law. Like, I met my brother-in-law when I was 14. He was my sister's high school sweetheart, and they're married, and they've been married for half of my life. He loves to rub that in my face, and he's like, I've known you for half of your life. Love him to death. He's amazing. But, like, obviously when I was 14 and I met him, and he was just a wee young gentleman who had never had a sister or young women around him. He had no idea how to communicate with a younger female. Not in, like, a weird way or whatever, but he was just, like, he grew up with an older brother, and they roughhouse and stuff like that, and then you have this alien little girl who hates you. Because I'm going through puberty, and I'm just an asshole. You know? Like, making amends with that, it just reminds me a lot of that.
So, Ianthe.
Ugh.
What did you think was going to happen between Feyre and Ianthe?
Yeah, well, for one, I didn't think she would stick around. I thought she would run away like the scared little bitch that she is. I was honestly, I didn't, like, respect her for showing her face, but I was surprised. And I was like, oh, the balls you have to show up now. Just, I gotta give her that. I hate her, but I was like, there's no way she's gonna show up and be in the spring court.
I didn't think she would be able to, and I don't think she did. Like, when you read that section, you can tell she's grasping at straws. She did not think it was going to backfire in that way. I don't think she saw the immediate need. I don't think she thought through the full picture of Tamlin's plan of bringing Feyre back.
You know what it is? I think she has the balls because she doesn't realize what Feyre is.
Yes.
I just realized that. Light bulb moment.
So,
But
yeah.
I agree with you, Hannah, though. I thought she was going to go back with Hybern and be kind of his lackey or something like
Right?
that. Like,
I thought she was going to be like the evil flying monkeys to the wizard.
That she was going to turn on Tamlin, period. Like, that was, like, the first, like...
I was shocked. I was so shocked that she was still there.
I am shocked that Tamlin didn't prosecute her when she came back to the spring court.
Yeah, it's almost like he really didn't care at all about doing anything to punish her.
What she did, supposedly Tamlin had no knowledge of.
But that would make me so mad as a High Lord.
How would you not kick her out?
I would literally, like...
For betraying you like that.
The fact that he never, ever addressed this, and, like, Feyre's the only person, like, who she officially apologized to. And
But you know what? That makes me so mad about that whole interaction with Tamlin and him not doing anything to her. It goes to show how little he gave a shit about Elaine and Nesta and Feyre's family. Like, clearly, he did not care at all.
Well, and this brings me to one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about in this episode, which is, do you think Tamlin brought Feyre back because he still loved her? And I argue that he didn't. I think he needs to have Feyre in the spring court as a power play.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
Like, I don't think he loves her. Like, and I just mean in the sense of, like, the romance that we saw in the first book, but
he doesn't know what love is.
Yeah.
Based on his upbringing. Just full stop.
No,
So
I agree with you 100%. Like, there's no way that he loves her. Because you would feel for her, one, when she's having a breakdown the first time, but also her siblings that she loves so much just got turned fey because of you.
Well, and such a misguided logic, too, which goes back to her not thinking through the consequences of her actions.
You know what Tamlin is? He is Harry Styles in Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh, 100%.
oh, okay, yeah.
Also, that movie sucked.
We'll talk about that.
I won't go against anyone. That movie sucked.
We'll talk about that later. Anyway.
really sucked. Sorry. Like,
So, because I like her reaction. You could tell she's fumbling in her description to Feyre. I wish to begin by saying how truly sorry I am. I acted out of desire to ... to grant what I believed you perhaps yearned for but did not dare voice, while also keeping our allies in Hybern satisfied with our allegiance. Because that is...
Fuck off, bitch.
Fuck
off.
Because that is, like, at the core of who Ianthe is, because she thinks that she has this entitlement. She thinks that she knows everything, and she is worthy of... I said it foreshadows her entitlement, especially towards her entitlement towards Lucian.
Fuck this bitch.
Which happens at the end of it. She just thinks she knows everything. She thinks everything is about her at her core, and everyone is a pawn in her fucking game.
Yeah.
Including Tamlin.
Like,
I mean,
everyone wants her. Everyone, like, she knows what's best for everybody. Like,
I mean, like, respect for someone who thinks she's a boss-ass bitch, but, like, calm down.
Not when it makes you a fucking, like, rapist and
asshole.
assaulter. Like, that's what she is.
Yeah.
Like, Nesta and Elaine were assaulted, and she assaulted Lucian. Like, full stop.
Yeah, let's
like,
get
she
into
is, like,
that.
literally a rapist in my eyes.
I don't understand even why Tamlin would allow. I mean, and maybe Tamlin was too distraught to intervene, but like how Tamlin would allow.
Sorry, I could not hold that in. I'm so sorry. Go on.
It's fine. I know why you're giggling. But how them getting together on Calamai was like not a huge as Lucian's best friend. Tamlin, how he could not intervene with that, because couldn't he have just fucked like any old barmaid or it doesn't have to be some celestial person.
No, I don't. I think it goes back to her being entitled and manipulative. So, yeah, it's just like her response to what she did, her entitlement, her thinking that she knows what's best for Feyre, assuming that she wanted like immortality time with both Nesta and Elaine, is foreshadowing of the manipulation and her. She tied up Lucian to a fucking tree at the end of this section, right?
With the same shackles that they had used on Rhysand.
Which that's
So let's summarize this. Can you go over it just for the listeners?
Oh, the Ianthe and Lucian dynamic? Wait, when you say summarize, you mean the Ianthe Lucian dynamic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just so we can explain it, so people who
the Calamai stuff.
Yeah, so obviously, like, Ianthe has been thirsting over Lucian for a long time.
When she couldn't get in with Rhysand, she went for the next best thing.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, he's still an heir to the Autumn Court. He's still a High Lord, so it's assumed that this is a power play on her behalf. But Lucian has definitely seen through her snakiness and has not fallen for it. And then, as Feyre's sort of catching up with what happened while she was gone, and there's that great quote. So when Lucian tells her that someone had to perform the rite, and Tamlin was too distraught to do the rite at Calamai, which is where you have to, like, have sex with someone in order
for fertility or like whatever
to bless the harvest
or
or
Puritan shit is
I know.
Right.
Midsummer.
Right.
Midsummer.
So Lucian decided to do it on behalf of Tamlin. Ianthe is the lady.
Wait, so I have a question. I still don't really understand that logic. Like, Tamlin is the Spring Court.
But because he's the High Lord, he can assign someone in his place.
Yeah.
Why didn't he do that in the past?
Because he was single and living it up.
Okay.
Because he got
So
to pick the bitch that he took home with him, and Ianthe just over-inserted herself like she fucking
But also, why didn't he say that to Feyre, like,
because they were not together.
Also, she was immortal. I think.
Oh yeah, he like made a comment that she wouldn't be able to handle.
Yeah, well, she couldn't be part of it. But at the time, they weren't actually together. That would have been
That was their first kiss, or like he like cornered her and kissed her, like whatever the hell.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rhysand showed up the next day.
Okay, but back then I found that romantic.
Oh, we all did. Oh, that was hot as hell in the moment.
And then I realized
it's not a red flag.
It's like all of my dating.
Mm-hmm.
First kiss, great. 3 months down the line,
But
3 books later.
Yeah.
But speaking of steamy stuff, Feyre remembers, like, she's thinking when Lucian is telling her about Calamai, she's like, oh my gosh, I totally lost track of that. Like,
It's my favorite.
While Lucian was in Ianthe, Rhysand was in me in the mountains.
That's literally what it said.
No wonder I totally forgot about that. Like, that boy, like, fried my mind. But
it was like said like they were making their own magic. I'm like, get it, girl.
Cute, but yeah. So Lucian.
So Ianthe's entitlement towards Lucian has not ended since Calamai, unfortunately.
Right. She kind of. It does sort of feel like she's like, I own your ass, I've seen your dick. Like, it's not... like, you still want... I mean, you wouldn't have picked me for the Calamai, right? But I think, if it was me, I don't think Tamlin would have selected Ianthe. I think Ianthe urged him to select her. This is my theory. Mm-hmm. And she probably was like, oh, if Lucian has sex with me for the right, like, it will be, like, a blessed moment because I'm a priestess and I talk to, like, the cauldron gods and then, like, it's just gonna be, like, it's gonna be extra special and you need that right now because your shit is in shambles. Sorry, that's funny to say. Your shit is in shambles.
Your shit is in shambles. Yeah, you guys, I really hate her.
She's not redeemable in this at all. I mean, like, I only liked her a little bit in the second book because she was kind of being friends with Feyre, planning the wedding and stuff. She wasn't really listening to Feyre, but she just was kind of, like, vicariously living through Feyre. Which
You know what she was? So we just watched that My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh, yeah!
She was the Greek family. Not letting her...
That dress is exactly like
not letting
Feyre's.
Feyre have the wedding that she wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And they put Harry in the invitation.
I have to say, though, Feyre's payback for Ianthe was so satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Before we get to that, we also have to, I think it would be important to go into the first thing that Feyre did to get at Ianthe, which was the summer solstice. And this was amazing.
Oh,
You
yeah,
have the best
so
grass
great.
on it, go for it,
So,
Parks.
the summer solstice is, you know, it's celebrated in the spring course, some big fancy to do. And I guess Ianthe wanted to do these, like, long-ass prayers and whatnot, super boring shit.
Ianthe, no way.
And
All about her? Never.
as
Ever.
the, like, sun rotates, I'm guessing, it will shine, like, there's a prayer stone thing. So,
She lined it up perfectly to be behind her for her all-powerful,
And-
like, holiness or
and
whatever
she would
the
look
fuck.
amazing, and the cauldron was blessing her, the sun was blessing her, or whatever the fuck. But Feyre tactfully moved the prayer stone to behind her, or like moved it a few feet over, and she was standing next to Lucian when that happened. And what she also does to sort of like just twist the knife in is she takes some of her day power or decor power to just like up the illumination like 10 degrees. So she's like one sparkly ass bitch. And, and it is very obvious. So,
Well, and not only did she win up by Ianthe, she also further drove the wedge between Lucian and Tamlin by having Lucian next to her and Tamlin on the other side of the ceremony, and Lucian like bowed to her, like did like some type of whatever ritual, like it was
Come
like
through,
mwah.
Lucian. Come through, brother-in-law. I love you.
Chef's kiss, Farrah.
if SJ Moss like doesn't get Lucian hooked up, I will willingly take him. Like I'm just saying.
Okay, so let's do a little pop quiz.
Pop
Not even
quiz?
a pop quiz, but like pop predictions.
Pop predictions.
Or just pop
pop.
preference. Like if he could end up
Suspense
with
is killing me.
if he were to end up with anyone, dream, like regardless of mate or whatever, who should he end up with?
Not Elaine. I'm firmly in that camp. I'm firmly in that camp.
I also agree with Sam on this, only because I feel like Elaine is always going to attribute Lucian to the most traumatic event of her life. It's heartbreaking because I actually think they would be soups cute together.
I know.
But I don't foresee Elaine ever really getting past that trauma, because if you think about it, like, she basically died as a human being and was reborn as something else.
The one
And, like,
of the
yeah.
three sisters, she was the one that should have truly had a human life.
Mhm.
I'm an Illyriel fan till I die.
So you know what's so funny? I think that
I know what that is.
I know I just like threw Lucian out the door. But as far as Elaine goes, it's so funny because I feel like throughout the whole series you think that she's just kind of like what do they call it? Like bestowed to somebody else. Like she was with the human.
betrothed?
Betrothed, that's the right word. I got a film major. I'm not a doctor.
You're not a dictionary either.
So it's been a long day. I've been working since like 5.
You have. We'll break.
But like she's always been betrothed to somebody else. What if she's the one who like ends up being like the independent woman for life? You know what I mean? Like never with someone.
I have no doubt about that. I think Elaine is. I think, like Feyre, I think Elaine is going to blossom and evolve and change in many beautiful ways. I don't think Nesta will. I think Nesta's pretty rounded out. Like,
That's it.
I don't think we're going to
She's
see
done.
much with her. Maybe she'll soften up a little bit, but like Nesta's pretty grounded.
I think that's what bothers me about, like, there's so many people that just hate on Elaine, and I'm like, we just, like, don't know her.
Yeah.
And like people put up so much on Asriel too. And I'm like, but we also don't know. Like, how are you guys so invested in these characters that we only know like surface level, like icing level of these characters, and you guys are like literally slinging mud at each other over them. Like,
you
we
just
know
licked their
nothing
faces.
about them.
That's it.
I just like, yeah. I think Elaine is going to be really important, especially with I'm gonna spoil it, so I'm not gonna say. We'll talk about it later.
Like, Lucian, who do you think he'd end up with? Like, from this moment.
From this moment, with the knowledge of women that I know, or I guess men, you know, he should have, like,
That's a thing too, actually. We'll talk about that later.
I'm just saying, I feel like Faye are a little loosey-goosey around that stuff. I don't think, like, they're not only a spectrum, they're the whole damn color wheel, you know what I mean? Like, I think they could
What
go...
if it's him and Tamlin?
No,
that
I don't see that happening. But, like, you know, maybe Tarquin goes both ways. He's nice. I like
I
Tarquin.
like
Oh my God,
Tarquin.
they would actually be a really cute couple.
Right?
Okay, I ship them.
Or, I'm trying to think of, like, a lady. Maybe his friend from the day court, because we know, I mean, this is not huge. No, he says it's a woman. Yeah.
They're all, well, yeah, okay, he's got the female connection.
From the day court. He has a friend that could be nice. We don't really know much about
You know
her.
what he would have been probably super cute with, who was also just like super naive and thought that she was doing the right thing, even though she ended up dying.
I feel like you're gonna say Elaine, but I
No,
don't. That's not
the
who it
human
is.
queen,
Oh, the human queen.
the one
Vasa?
who gave them the book.
You know, I have a theory about the human queen that gave them the book. I think that was all part of Hyburn's plan. And I've thought about this a little bit after the book
Ooh.
went by, because I was because in this set of chapters, Feyre sends those, like, images to the children of the blessed to, like, scare them off, and she sends them the human queen on the spike. And I thought about this, and I'm like, you know, I really don't think the human queens would have given them the book. I think Hybern forced her to give them the book, and, like, as part of his whole grand plan, like, and then killed her as, like, just to be like, oh yeah, this just to build this trap of, like, oh my gosh, the human queen totally betrayed her other friends, or like
a distraction technique.
yeah. I think I'm sorry, like, the more I think back about it, I think that was all pre-planned by Hybern.
I genuinely try to figure out what, especially after I reread the second book, trying to I think we talked about it on the podcast, but it makes me wonder how much of it was them actually curious and wanting to work with the Night Court, and when they flipped, or if they ever flipped. Was
I
it
stand
always
by.
the negative intention, or were they swayed at the end with immortality because of the cauldron?
I totally stand by the fact that they were swayed from the beginning.
I think they switched halfway.
I think they switched halfway
Let's
too.
do a poll.
Well, we just did it, so.
No, I meant like with the
2 to
listeners.
1.
Yeah.
Our friends that may or may not have read the books.
God, Sam.
No, I agree with
I think they swayed
I agree with
halfway.
Sam. There was just an energy switch. I don't really know.
An intention switch,
Yeah.
yes. Like, they were willing to, like, humor it. They're like, this is weird, but okay. And then they waited so
long to respond back. That was what got me as well. Like,
And then for them to mock Rhysand's letter about Feyre, like, yeah, they had something in their back pocket by then.
because I actually think that Rhysand's letter, I think they saw it as being very genuine.
cute.
Like,
It was so cute, but I don't think they found it cute.
I know,
because
they're fucking bitches.
Because the whole mind manipulation thing is just so bullshit. Like, when they made that comment to Rhysand about the letter, like, that was such a bullshit excuse.
But you have to remember, that's what everyone thought of him. Like, even under the
That
mountain
he's gonna-
before that, you know what I mean? Like, everyone thinks that everything Rhysand does is mind manipulation. Like, that is what he's known for. So I'm pretty sure they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, High Lord of the Night Court, you're super trustworthy, even though your whole reputation and everything we know about you is built on a throne of lies.
I just think that if that was always going to be their thought, they would have stuck to that and not even met with them in the first place.
Yeah.
But, like, part of being a chess player is to see what they're willing to give up.
Which, well, like, and that brings to your point, like, if this is a chess game, it almost seems like Hybern was there from the get-go.
Boom! That's
I
what
mean,
I'm talking
that's
about.
like, you could argue that. Like, if this was.
Yeah, but
I agree. I mean, so my theory is that Hybern was present, but they had not chosen to take him off.
Sides yet.
Yeah.
They had their feast laid out and they decided their first portion.
Well,
I
yeah.
have a question. How do you guys perceive, so like when you were first introduced to even the idea of Hybern, what were your feelings towards that? Because I feel like if I were a human queen and I was mortal, I feel like he's like the Bowser that I don't want to fuck with ever. You know what I mean? Like, you might not have met him or made connections, but you don't want to cross him because he could just do detrimental destruction to your society.
I have a thought. But, like,
Carbs aside. Well, let's hear it. I want to know. I'm just throwing shit out
I'm
there.
trying to think of a good example, and I know, like, and I can't, it's on the tip of my tongue. I think that if Hybern finds you, you're dead. And I think that is what the assumption is. Like, if you are caught in the web of Hybern, expect to be dead. Like you're caught. There is no escaping.
But see, that's how I feel, and so I think that I feel like fear instilled would instantly, the moment someone even mentions that they want to go against Hybern, even if it's like for a meeting, you know that I feel like they'd already be on his side out of fear.
But I think that because they had the other half of the book, I wonder if they thought that once they became immortal, they could have the upper hand.
But in order to know that they could become immortal, they had to have spoken with Hybern.
But that didn't mean that they wouldn't have tried to double cross him in the
But
process.
also, realistically, even if you have the book, you really think this motherfucker's not going to come and, like, murder you for
I
the
mean,
book
and that's the
take
thing,
it?
is, like, he has 200,000 soldiers and magic. like, not to mention magic. Like, if 200,000 soldiers was enough to annihilate an entire country, let's add magic to that. So, I'm just saying, like, he's deadly. Like, he's deadly upon contact. Like, I don't... I think the queens were playing the best card they thought they had.
Wrong.
Well, I guess, you know what, I
but-
could see them, from your point of view, if they, like, didn't think that Hybern would ever get involved directly with them, was afraid of Rhysand, and were like, yeah, sure, we'll hammer you, buddy.
Well, you know, and I think about those first couple meetings where they were so, like, over it. Like, they were like, look, we've been around a few times, not as much as you, because you're hundreds of years old, but, like, we know the gist. It's gonna be a war. Shit's gonna go down. Like,
Good luck.
Good luck. Like,
Leave us out of it.
like we've played the good best. We played the good guy. We played the bad cop. We're just kind of easy breezy. We're gonna go with what we want to do. Yeah. And I think it was a very, like, just selfish, like, blah. We're all gonna fucking die anyways.
Yeah, because
like,
we're mortal.
Yeah, like, we're mortal. So maybe if we're immortal, we can still figure this shit out. But, like, yeah, I feel genuinely that the queens had no allegiance. I think they were gonna do what was best for them personally, not their people, not the Fae, not for Hybern. I think they were very selfish in their decisions and how they wanted to proceed with that.
Okay, you might have swayed me. I don't know.
That is my theory, but
I have an important question.
I don't want to answer it. But you go ahead.
Now I'm nervous. Oh my
Okay.
gosh. What are you going to ask us?
So, what's the king of Hybern's name?
Hybern.
That's the name of the country. That's the name on the map.
What is his name?
His name's not Hybern?
Wait, he's the king of Hybern, which is the...
Is it Jerry? Like,
Wait, what? How have we not known his name?
is this like the doctor or like
I can think.
Okay,
I can
I'm
think
like-
Reddit for this.
I'm
Mind
so upset
fuck.
about this right now. I'm not okay.
I saw it on Reddit and I was like, "Fuck! Does I have to bring this up on the podcast?"
What is his
Wait,
name?
do you know if
There's
it's
no
the-
name.
There is no name. He's
It's
just the
literally
king
King
of
of
Hybern.
Hybern.
He's the man with no name.
Mm-hmm.
Girl with no name. What if it's actually a female and she's pretending to be the king of... Oh my
Like
god, my brain.
Like a face, like one of the facey things. Like
No, I think
What
it's
if it's a woman, like, playing the wizard? All right, moving on.
All right. Well, we have two more topics to discuss before we've wrapped up this section. We need to touch base on Ms. Alice, Feyre's lady in waiting, and we need to eventually talk about the prince and princess of Hybern that actually have fucking names. So, Alice, she is a smart cookie, isn't she?
Yeah, I like that line where she's like, everyone thinks you came back wrong, but I think you came back right. And she also tells, which I didn't realize this, is Feyre was so just out of it when she was taken by Moore that she didn't even know that Alice urged Moore to take her.
Or that there was an audience.
Can you give a little recap?
Oh, sorry. So when...
Who is Alice?
Alice is the handmaid, or...
Yeah, I'm calling her,
undermaid? Just
Feyre's maid.
Feyre's maid. Yeah, Feyre's maid. Kind of like Nawala and Carradine are in the Night Court. And, she does, like, her hair and...
Who is originally from the Summer Court that escaped with her nephews when her sister died.
Yeah. And then in the second book, when Feyre was really struggling mentally, Feyre had a mental breakdown when Tamlin locked her up, that she sort of exploded, exploded with power, and Moore shows up, picks up Feyre, and Alice begs Moore to take Feyre away because Feyre was literally she was self-imploding, literally. So this is Alice telling Feyre for the first time that she was the one that was like, hey, just so you're aware, I'm the one who told Moore to take you. And I know, it's just, she basically was like, look, I know you're up to something.
Keep me and my nephews out of it.
Let
us get out of here.
Yeah.
Respect.
And it adds to the mounting, Feyre is hearing, I feel like, from multiple sources, especially after the century that gets whipped because of Ianthe, which we can unpack later. But people are starting to realize that they were wrong in not stepping in when Feyre was struggling under Tamlin.
I have my feelings about all that.
I know. Well, and it's such an interesting commentary because I think that's why I can't watch true crime podcasts anymore, because it's always the aftermath of, we should have done more. We should have done more.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, we could have saved.
No, you have a gut feeling that shit's going down and you should act on it.
Yes.
But I will say, culturally, especially in America, but for women in general, we're told really not to trust our guts. I'm seeing a lot more parents these days saying, I'm not gonna make my kids hug people when they don't want to.
Love that. But yeah, it's sad that it took Feyre needing to literally self-implode to get herself out of an abusive situation for people to realize that they should have stepped in earlier.
And they didn't even realize until, way after, I feel like.
Well, until she had to start manipulating them for people to realize that Tamlin was a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. That she had to pit Tamlin against his centuries, and that she had to pit Lucien against Tamlin, and that, she had to open their eyes to the problem at hand.
Well, you know what's so funny to me? Oh, it's not funny. That's sarcasm. But, she imploded, and everyone instantly looked at Rhysand and was like, he stole her, and it's like, okay.
I didn't even think of it
from
from
that
perspective.
all Rhysand's fault that she imploded and just happened to disappear after all of this, but it's all Rhysand's fault.
And comes back looking healthy and happy. Not abused and tormented and traumatized. Actions speak louder than words. When you can see a physical difference, she's no longer wasting away.
What a concept.
I did want to talk about, with these chapters, when we go into, Feyre's power moves and her power play with all of this. Because the other things that happen aside from the summer solstice, the next thing is, because of what Feyre did at summer solstice to embarrass Ianthe had to, step shit up. And she wanted to be seen as the healer, and she wanted to be seen as a savior, so she releases a Naga. This is Feyre's assumption. We can pretty much assume this is what happened. That she released a Naga, which ran through. It sounds like it didn't hurt anyone, but...
Can you also, explain what that means?
The Naga? Oh, so we found...
That hasn't happened yet.
No, it happens in this. It happens in this
section.
In this
Well,
section.
no, I meant happened prior to this moment.
Right. So,
But we've seen the Naga before.
yeah, because they were in the first book. So the Naga is just like a horrible beast, which I guess they poison the land, or there's something about them which poisons the area that they come into contact with. And when the Naga were found, they were found with a set of keys from one of their sentries. And they tracked down who it was, and this sentry was put up for punishment. I think about this a lot, because Feyre makes a comment about, like, you know, this is... Because, of course, Feyre wants to be seen as this person who's concerned about this man, and to get the sort of support from the people around Tamlin. What bothers me about all of this is that Feyre even says through, and I wrote down this quote from her, which is, let me read it. Let me see. She talks about the sentry that's going to be whipped, and she says, he would heal from the pain, but the blow to his honor, I'd take a little piece out of mine as well. And I think that's important, because these were all pieces that Feyre set up. She knew if she were to do all of this, Ianthe would behave this way. And this poor sentry was a lamb to slaughter in her plan. Like, she is sending the Spring Court to hell and to ruin. She knows this by doing all of these things. And I compared it to Paradise Lost, which is this epic poem, super fucking old. And it's not a fantasy thing. It's an interpretation of the fall of Eden. And the idea, or the question is if you're all knowing, then aren't you not responsible for the fall of people? So if you know that if you release Satan onto Earth, and you know he'll manipulate the Eve, and you know he'll take down...
You allow it.
Yeah, you're actually allowing it to happen. And that's the question around it. And that is where we're kind of at with Feyre right now, is she a good person? Like...
Yeah, she enters the gray area.
Yeah, she enters this gray area.
And it's something that we can talk about when we get farther into the book, because there can be an argument made, in my opinion, that Feyre didn't need to do this, and they might have been stronger against Highburn if she had not done this to the Spring.
That's fair. That's very fair.
And it sucks. And I wonder, so, like, she struggled so much under the mountain when she had to make those sacrifices, and I wonder if that almost set her up for the ability to do this.
Well, but also she deserves to have some of her power back when she lost it. Like, that is 100% valid in getting that ownership back and taking control of her life. I am all for that. But I think kind of like, in my opinion, which we all agree with the fucking Summer Court, could this been handled differently that would have been better for a long-term solution?
Right.
We can go into this a little bit more later.
No, but you're right. Because of Feyre, or in association with Feyre, we've lost the Summer Court and soon to be the Spring Court. Like, and that's on them making these decisions, like you said, a little poorly, like not thinking out
impulsively.
Yeah, like this is the only way to handle this, and it's not. Like,
do you think that part of the time crunch played a part into it?
But like, what time crunch? Like are we like?
Well, the thing is like you never know when war is actually going to happen, so you got to start making your points because you have to act ahead of the other plays. Do you see what I mean? What is that Peaky Blinders quote? Oh my gosh, where he was like, you know what I'm talking about? I'll insert it here if I can find it. But he talks about how, like, she was like, why would we do this? And he's like, because if we don't, we're fucked, essentially.
And I think it's so weird because, like, I don't know about you guys, and maybe it's because I've read Throne of Glass now. I've read all 3 of Sarah J. Maas's books. But, like, the inevitability of war in this world, in this series, does not feel as looming as it does in Crescent City or as in Throne of Glass.
Right.
So, like, the threat of Highburn just doesn't ever truly feel threatening
I was
to
going
me.
to say the same thing. I was like, I don't see a ticking clock. I don't see the urgency that it has to be done exactly this way or lives are at stake.
I feel like I had more anxiety because I was like, you know, with the other book series, you could tell that, like, shit was gonna happen. This one, I feel like you're almost kind of anticipating being blindsided, because even you look at what happened in Valaris when they attacked, like, they were just strolling around the city, you know, like, super calm, going to get dinner and stuff, and all of a sudden, all of these things approached, and they were, like, massacring people of Valaris.
But that was because Reese started sticking his nose into shit. If we're really going to get into that.
Yeah, he, again, like, was
Valaris
showing
became
Valaris.
a target
Yeah.
because he started poking around for those fucking books.
And just showing Valaris, was that the right move to show that was that they were
agree,
trustworthy?
that was not it.
But this is what we're saying is, like, these are not smart decisions. Sorry, these are not smart decisions. Like,
no, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with that. But I wonder if they are just like, it's almost like they're throwing punches blindly and hoping to make a connect before they just get, like, someone coming behind them.
That also just doesn't feel like a Rhysand move in hindsight. Now that we're going down this rabbit hole, this doesn't feel like a Rhysand thing.
Weren't there things leading up that they had concern over, like holes in the wall appearing or things happening?
the legs were missing from the cauldron. They slaughtered all those people.
Yes, the location of the legs became revealed. And there was that temple of the high priestesses that were attacked. Like, so that was really the only. But that's the thing; they were not necessary. But I think Hybern was only going after them because Rhys started snooping for the book. Because the culture was so functional without the legs.
It almost reminds me of the movie Rat Race, where it was like one small thing goes into effect, and then it's just like balls to the wall, hit the ground running, gotta get it before anyone else does.
But I think Rhysand started it.
Which he might have.
That's just my humble opinion. Like,
I mean, he also was stuck under the mountain for so long that he probably came up and was like, "Oh my god, I gotta get prepared."
Can't do this again.
I mean, and that's fair.
I mean, never again, never forget.
No more hoes in this house.
I mean, and that's fair. Like, 50 years of trauma was gonna fuck you up. Like, and maybe that's a good point. That maybe the reason why they're not thinking this through is because they're so he is so traumatized and so afraid of this happening again. And now he has, like, a mate, and things are kind of starting to feel perfect again. He has his friends and his lady love interest. Like, maybe that's maybe it's him putting pressure on himself. Like, it's, or, like, seeing threats where there aren't any. Or, not that there aren't any, but not an imminent.
You always want to, like, type A personality, you always want to be ahead of it. You want to be the one in control, and so maybe he was just pre-planning.
And Rhysand lost control because he was too focused on killing Amarantha. He got fucked in the process. That's fair. All right, well, we still have to talk about, like, the main fucking plot point.
Round.
Okay, let's cover, like, 80 things. We definitely want to get into our new guests, which is Branna and Dagden.
Mm-hmm. Which Branna's the princess and Dagden is the prince, and Jurian is with them.
Yeah, and they are the niece and nephew to King Hybern, which is
King of Hybern.
Which has no name.
Which is name. What if his name was like Hybern? That'd be...
Hannah, don't spit up your drink. Bourbon's gonna burn real good.
What if he was named after the city he was born in, which happens to be Hybern? Oh,
that's not the city, it's the country. So
fine, the country he was born in. Like, people aren't named fucking Dallas, and...
Dallas is a city, not a country.
I'm just saying, like... There are guys named Texas, because some people are like, hey, what's up, Tex? I don't know why I'm focusing on Texas specifically.
Georgia would have been a much better example of that.
Oh, see, there you go, Georgia. Thank you. And I'm sure there's someone named Arkansas out there. I'm certain of it. So, Branna and Dagden. They are the niece and nephew of King of Hybern, and they are awful. The first time we see them, I mean, their whole purpose for being here is to assess if there are any weaknesses in the Spring Court. They're kind of feeling out Tamlin
And the wall.
And the resources that are at the Spring Court. They're kind of dicks, and they have
Probably fucking each other.
Yeah, there's this, like, weird, incestuous, like, Jaime Lannister, Cersei vibe going on
100%.
there.
I was about to say that too.
Yeah, no, like, it's there. And, and Feyre notices at the first dinner with them that they're, like, taking really long to answer things. They're just kind of, like, standing there, like, just sitting there and just not saying anything at all. And she's like, I think they might be Daemati. And she senses them, like, going after the shields of Lucian and Ianthe and Tamlin, and she throws up adamant on those and stops them in their tracks, and she looks at them being like, I know who you are, bitch, you know who I am, just come at me, bro.
I like the description of her scraping the claw against their fucking shields. Like, such a power move, Feyre. Let's go.
Such a power move. And the other person who's there is Jurian.
Ugh.
We remember him from the first book. He was an eyeball in a ring, and now he's a real boy. And he is, I assume he's still human.
I have no clue what to think of Jurian and, like, his current state,
but-
because he was human before Amarantha disassembled him.
Is he a Fae now? Like, because if he went through the cauldron, wouldn't he come out Fae? It's not really confirmed one way or the other.
Great point. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I would think he's Fae.
Yeah, because he's made now.
But is it different because they had to reassemble him? Like,
Did he not get as much made because they had to use all the power to put him, like,
They just
from dismemberment?
like humans.
seriously, like,
How does the cauldron work?
Elaine and Nesta went in full body. They just dropped a couple pieces of a potion for Jurian.
So yeah, I wasn't sure if you guys were aware of that or not. And
That's a great question.
I didn't check. I'll check the end of the second book and just at his introduction to see if they mention anything about pointy ears. But he certainly hasn't displayed any magical qualities or tendencies. Like, I'm not seeing any, like, special abilities.
He's insanely human.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
And then also
there's-
insane.
He's not, and insane. You know, a twofer. But like, he's not, like, glamoring anyone. He's not showing any special abilities that we know of. I'm assuming he looks like a human, but I was like, maybe he's, like, human on the outside, a little bit of Fae on the inside, you know? Like,
Spicing it up.
you know, like an Oreo. And so they go, the big reason why Branna and Dagden are here, they're checking out the wall, and we have a couple different excursions where we go out to the wall. And on one of the excursions, the Children of the Blessed are on the other side of the hole. Oh, wait.
I motherfucking called it.
I know.
I called it.
You did.
I will place a sound clip from episode 1.
Yep,
Called that shit.
you did.
I motherfucking called it.
It's a good thing Hannah's so humble.
Branna and I mean, they are
Dagden.
practically a couple, so you could say Bragdon.
Bragdon. So what Feyre does to save the Children of the Blessed is she reaches out to them with her mental powers and plants images that, and it's interesting, she doesn't use images that, like, she doesn't make up scary images. She uses images from her past. She uses Under the Mountain, Claire Bedford,
The
adder.
Naga and the bogey and
the
all of
adder
that stuff.
and
Yeah,
the Golden Queen getting spiked through the chest.
Yeah.
Like, all these, like, horrible things that absolutely happen, and they bolt off. And then we have this very, very sweet moment with Jurian. He thanks Feyre for doing that. And I mean, he is still, I mean, I think in his mind he's still human. And of course, like, Feyre as well, like, even though she is Fae, like, considered Fae now, but he was very appreciative that she did that. And then
Jurian's such an interesting character at this point because he clearly sides with Highburn, but he is been implying and saying things that are I don't think he's necessarily on Pharaoh and Rhysand's side. He's kind of on his own island at this point. He's just kind of playing the game, I think, more than any of us realize.
He's Littlefinger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he is. That's why I don't fucking like him. Thank you for that.
He has only one agenda, and it's his own.
Yes.
Honestly,
which is to get back at Miriam. Really. I feel like it's to get back at Miriam Draken at this point.
Oh, no, it is, because he said...
He's got a little heartbreak, and we know men are sensitive.
Well, he also reveals, because it was in the second book when Rhysand tells Feyre the story of Jurian and Miriam, that... I think it was Rhysand that told her that. In that story, we find that Miriam was Jurian's lover for a hot minute, and then Prince Dragon...
Yeah.
He comes into picture, and then as Jurian is sort of slipping into madness and ambition over this war, that's when Miriam and Dracon become close, and she basically leaves Jurian for him.
Yeah, it says, you know that Rhysand and I fought together, don't you? Me and your High Lord held the lines against the Loyalists. He's not her High Lord, Tamlin said. Jurian only purred at me. He must have told you where he hid Miriam and Draken. They're dead, I said flatly. The cauldron says otherwise. I think you'd have better things to do, Jurian, than obsess over the lover who jilted you. His eyes gleamed bright with 5 centuries of madness as he skewered a morsel of meat with his fork. They say you were fucking Rhysand before you ever jilted your own lover. That is enough, Tamlin growled.
Oh, the spiciness.
So, yeah, there's a lot of unresolved shit there.
Yeah. Well, and in the scene that I'm referring to, which is the campfire thing, that one is, that's when Feyre says, I don't understand why you're doing this, like, you know, weren't you obsessed with, like, getting information out of Clythia? And he's like, Miriam told me I could fuck her, you know, for information.
That was the plan.
She was totally cool with it. So, we don't really, like, so we're getting a couple different accounts of this, and the whole point of Jurian coming back into the picture is he wants to draw out Miriam and make her pay for what she did and for scorning him. And I guess then he'll move on with his life. Jeez. And then, unfortunately, the next morning, Jurian wakes... I think, Lucian wakes up Feyre.
They run into Jurian, and he's like, it's too late, and they see a slaughterhouse of the 3 children of the Blessed, because they cross the wall to go back after them, even though they cross back into the human realm.
Mm-hmm. It was rough.
I told you, sacrificial lambs.
And I always find that scene a little interesting when it comes to Jurian, to be so grateful that she saved them, and then... when they're dead, and we also, like, he may have reacted differently when he found the bodies, but he was so blasé about, he's like, oh, if they're dead, there's nothing you can do about it, like...
Do you wonder if that's just, like, because of his history with war, and how, once you see death, you kind of become numb
possible.
to it?
Coping mechanism.
Yeah, totally
where
possible.
it's like, I'm so grateful that you saved them, and then realizing that they came back, it was like, this was fucked from the get-go.
I mean... he came back from being an eyeball and a finger. I would just think that he would have a different appreciation for life, I guess.
But you know what? You also have to remember that he's like a war commander. Or like an army commander.
That's
like
true.
he probably has seen some horrible shit. He's experienced it himself, and like
Fought
at the end of the day...
Rhysand.
At the end of the day, these children, as much as he wishes that they would have lived and, like, you saw the appreciation, they're a casualty of war.
Yep.
Okay.
Like, whether he likes it or not, there's nothing he can do about it now.
No, I couldn't... I think that's a really good point. I guess I was thinking this has to do with his madness and his sort of desensitization desensitization, but I
Oh,
think
100%. I think it's totally desensitized.
yeah, but I think I agree with you. I don't think it has to do with his madness. I think it has to do with just being a world war general and seeing a lot of really bad shit.
You know, unpopular opinion, I don't think he's that mad. I think that he is scorned and has lived as a finger in an eyeball and seen some terrible shit, and maybe that he... maybe it's true. Like, maybe he's just, like, super bitter right now, and I feel like that's fair. Like, he just literally sat on Amarantha's finger and her neckline for a long-ass time after just suffering tremendous heartbreak, and now he's a human, and, like, maybe he just doesn't really know where his, like, loyalty lies. He's just trying to figure it out. Because he also just doesn't know what the what do you call it, the status of everything is.
Huh.
He just got remade.
That's true. Kind of coming into...
He's trying to figure out the new power players.
Yeah.
That's why he's feeling out Feyre.
Ah.
And that wonderful quote I'll have to find in a second about how he knew that Rhysand would do everything he could to find his mates so that because Rhysand isn't looking for Feyre, that Feyre has been unleashed on the Spring Court. Like, he fucking knows. Perhaps that's because Rhysand has not lost you at all, but rather unleashed you upon us.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, also you think about just, like, from personal experience, like, when you deal with heartbreak, that sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks really bad, especially when there's another person involved and you were so focused on surviving.
Thinking everything was okay the whole time.
Yeah, while you're like, sweetie, can you just chill for a little bit? I gotta save the fucking human realm right now. You know what I mean?
BRB.
Like, also, it's funny because, like, maybe I just don't have that much like, I think Jurian's weird. Yeah, sure. But I also kind of, like, don't necessarily love Miriam.
We just don't know her. It's hard to really form an opinion.
This is just like Azriel and Elaine. We can't go making assumptions about characters we don't know yet.
I feel indifferent towards both of them. Like, I don't look at Jurian as a bad guy, and I don't look at her as a bad guy, but I don't look at her or him as a good person.
Jurian feels bad right now because he was present for Hybern brought him back, therefore you associate him as a negative thing right now.
Yeah, but he didn't choose to come back.
We also don't know why he brought
how
back.
or whatever.
You know what? That's true.
Like, why is he back?
He's still in the gray. Like, Miriam and Dracon, I feel like, lean into Elaine and Azriel, and, like, we can't really make assumptions. Jurian's just this weird, like, metally, kind of shady guy that kind of reappeared.
Or do you think that he's just surviving?
Well, also, and speaking on behalf of Miriam, she also grew up with a lot of abuse, so we don't know, like, what her view is on people and sympathy and or like
relationships.
Yeah, I just don't view Jurian as, like, I don't know. I don't view him as this, like, insane villain, you know. I feel
I don't think
he's the hero.
No.
I don't think he's the villain or the hero. I think that he's
the anti-hero. Mm-hmm. Not me with the Taylor Swift reference. It's fine.
Sorry.
That's like the epitome of Jurian. We need to go into just the last bit. We need to finish out this arc. We're on chapter 8, where Lucian and Feyre decide to take matters in their own hands against Dagden and Branna for going after the children.
They're reuniting again.
Teaming up. I love it. Maybe their friendship will last. Will survive.
So
maybe.
They sick the bogey on Branna and
Dagden.
I love when it's called a bogey. It always makes me think of that Adam Sandler movie. Or no, not Adam Sandler. The 10 Things I Hate About You. You guys know what I'm talking about? No, it's fine.
Oh yeah, Bogey's Party.
Yeah,
Bogey's Party. Yeah, it's and that's he's such a great comedian. I can't remember his name. But the party they throw. Yeah, it's like I know exactly what you're talking about.
So Tamlin has opinions. Surprise, surprise.
No way.
White male opinions? Never.
Oh wait, Kirk.
Anyway.
I was gonna say, like, I find it very interesting that this is the first time we are seeing Feyre and Tamlin, like, sit down and talk to each other.
And
have a conversation.
Not only so, you see Tamlin's old, like, the side that we're prepared to see from Tamlin, but we're seeing Feyre finally stand up for herself at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the last time we were in this room where Feyre stood up for herself, the same thing happened, where she was like trying to explain to Tamlin that she felt she was suffocating, and
that she is a human and deserves her rights and feelings.
and he
What a concept.
Sam, calm down. That's a lot to ask for.
and when that happened in
How
the
dare you.
second book, he exploded with power and anger, and that time she unknowingly protected herself by putting up a shield. She didn't know how. One of the new abilities she has that which at the time she wasn't as familiar with. But again, now we have Feyre and Lucien this time around together, and Tamlin is upset with them. He dismisses Lucien, and that's when Feyre confronts Tamlin about his choices when it comes to Hybern, when it comes to having the niece and nephew there, why he is not, like, I think, did she also mention Ianthe? I don't think she did. No.
I don't think she
No.
did.
And
She's over that bitch at this point.
and just his behavior when it comes to this war and how he's going about it. And he again loses his temper, explodes in power, and this time around she intentionally let that hit her full force. So table hits her.
She's like beating up the glass from the windows, like she's scraped up to shit. Which gains her favor from the Sentries after she defends them and like nurtures the one that got whipped. So she is just slowly gathering so much sympathy and pitting everybody against Tamlin.
It's brilliant, truly, it's brilliant.
And she's the sober one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm a little spacey right now.
It's because it's late.
Yeah.
I
We worked
know.
a long day, and it's rainy and cold.
We need to wrap this up, though. We're almost done. We're on chapter 8. We still have 2 more chapters to get through.
Okay.
Oh, God.
So this happens. Sentry gets in trouble because during the time that this happened, the Naga was released into the grounds. This next morning, as this Sentry is being punished, like you said, Feyre definitely she stands up for this young man who she knows in her heart of hearts that he's just a pawn in Ianthe's power play to get some more attention and get the notoriety she thinks she deserves, or her entitlement. And of course, Tamlin, actually Branna makes the comment pathetic because Tamlin almost seems like he's going to listen to the Sentry and going to listen to Feyre, be like, hey, come on, people make mistakes, like, this happens. And he's about to change his mind, you can kind of see it, and then Branna says pathetic, and he realizes, like, he has to make a statement in order to to prove that he's not weak.
Oh my God, that's so stupid.
And
like, it's toxic masculinity.
Very toxic. I mean...
Like, it's like, I have a big dick. Now you have a small dick. I have a big dick.
So the
I can't cry.
So the next day, they go out to see another hole in the wall. And this time, Alice actually prepares an extra bag for Feyre, and knowing that this is probably the last time she's going to see her.
So
I love it.
And she tells Feyre that she's going to the day court.
No, the summer court.
Summer court, I'm sorry.
Back
Summer
home
court.
with her nephews.
Thank you.
And then that's when she confides. So Feyre finally gives up the facade of innocence, and she's like, I don't have an ally. Like, I cannot go to the summer court.
You know
like, I
what?
appreciate it. And she's like, no. She's like, you will always have at least me.
You know
Oh,
what?
I love
I
that.
can't wait for some, like, very far in the series where she comes back.
I am
Alice?
hoping we see Alice again.
Like, a little cameo where, like, it's least expected.
Especially in front of Tarquin would be mwah.
Would make my life.
Yes. Full stop. So, Feyre, realizing that she has an actual ally now. Feyre repacks her bags, and she is anticipating actually dipping out on this last excursion to get back to Rhysand.
Yeah. Now, Tamlin goes on this one. Jurian goes on this one. Branna and Dagden go on this one. Lucien and Ianthe. And
Fucking bitch.
And Feyre makes a very interesting move because I think Feyre was thinking what Tamlin was thinking is that they would share a tent, but she did not want to share a tent with Tamlin, so she bites the bullet, and she just says that she wants to stay with Ianthe. I think it's very much that, like, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer sort of mentality.
But also, I think trying to force Lucian and Tamlin into close proximities again to try to, like, kiss and make up, I feel like.
Yeah.
There's a little element of that to me.
Well, and we didn't even talk about this is after the summer solstice, where, like, at the summer solstice, Feyre's kind of cozying up to
We did a little bit. We
Tamlin.
talked about the wedge
Yeah.
that she drove between them with her lacy little
For-
undergarments, trying to low-key seducing Tamlin.
And you know, and of course, Lucian rushed to her side the night before when she was hit by Tamlin's power. Mm-hmm. And that was very much a huge. That also, like, put the nail in the coffin when it came to Lucian and Tamlin. Like, at that point, Lucian was picking Feyre's side, I think. Mm-hmm. And then all of them are out doing this wall survey.
That's when she decides to take her exit.
Mm-hmm.
She packs up. She starts moving, and that's when she hears Lucian and Ianthe.
Mm.
And instead of leaving Lucian to Ianthe's advances that she knows that he does not want, she interferes, and that's when she takes hers from Ianthe. I love it.
You know what I find very interesting about her, how she, like, tortures Ianthe, is that she does this whole thing about, like, you're not gonna touch a male unless they consent to it, and she kind of pushes that whole, like, the consent is important. I'm like, why didn't she just make her, like, never have sex again? Like...
Because that's not the punishment, because it's not the act of sex that's the problem. It's the fact of Ianthe using her power. So it's, I think, the idea that she doesn't understand boundaries or consent, which is what got Elaine and Nesta turned into Fae without their consent, and
Right.
Lucian being seduced or feeling coerced into a sexual encounter with her without his consent. So I don't think it's the act of sex that Feyre has the problem with. It's her manipulation of sex.
That's fair. That's fair. I think that's fair. And then her punishment to
Love it.
Ianthe is she makes her pick up a rock and smash her hand to smithereens. So the original plan that Feyre had was that she was going to plant images of her, like, brutalized body into the sentries' minds, and of course, you know, Tamlin and Ianthe and Jurian would return back to the Spring Court, or to the palace, whatever, and they would lie about her disappearance somehow, but the sentries would eventually reveal what happened, or what was implanted in their mind, and then that will cause the whole sentries to gang up against Tamlin. And then the Spring Court will fall, because there will be no sentries. So, and then she was just going to have, you're right, because she was just going to have Ianthe just sit there until someone found her. And then that is when Branna and Dagden show up. And they reveal that these headaches that Feyre has been having for the past month or so she's been there, that is them. They have been spiking the food, the drink with very, very, very fine Faebane, which is something that sort of drains the powers of Fae, and it takes a while to kind of get out of your system. So,
and it's cutting their power, but it's not cutting just her power. It's cutting Lucian's and Tamlin's. It's affecting everybody's. So they are taking full control of the court at this point.
Right. So, and in this altercation, Feyre believes, well, they wouldn't be revealing this to us if we were going to get out alive. So she has a moment where she could have gone, and she decides not to because she wouldn't want to leave Lucian because he would be dead. So she winnows multiple times. I kind of have this, I have this kind of visual when she's fighting with Dagden of, remember Harry Potter and Voldemort in, like, the smoky thing in the 7th movie?
Yes, the winnow strike.
Right.
I love it.
I kind of, like, visualize that a little bit. But while they're fighting, she throws, like, a wall of fire at Branna, and she's so mad that, like, oh, my beauty is gone! That, like, as she's about to lunge for Feyre, Lucian she forgets about Lucian, and he slices her head off. And Dagden...
Come through, Lucian.
Yeah, and Dagden, in his distraughtness about being a twin no more, he lunges for Lucian, she winnows in front, and just stabs him right in the eye. And the twins are kaput. So then she tells Ianthe that she's like, okay, I changed my mind. Tell Tamlin and Jurian that I killed the royals out of self-defense, and that I ran. And then her and Lucian go. Well, technically she goes, and Lucian's like, I'm coming with you, and I want to go get my mate, and she reluctantly lets him.
And they make it to the cave to go to enter the next court, and Lucian's like, well, we're gonna go to the summer court, we can't deal with my family, and she's like, blood rubies, LOL, can't do that.
Sorry, we're gonna have to deal with your family, because you don't want to deal with my problems.
And my death.
So,
Reset will kill you if I die.
yeah, so, like... I know, it really doesn't shake out well for Lucian either way.
He just constantly gets fucked.
He does, indeed.
That's why I love him.
And he,
No, it's your ginger connection.
I know.
There's these...
Gingers unite. Hey, I gotta watch out for my people.
There are these two very, I think, significant moments in the last few pages. One being that she's about to say, like, okay, we're gonna get this done and then we'll get home. But she kind of stops herself before she says home, because she knows that she's referring to the Night Court, and Lucian is also coming to consciousness that she's referring to the Night Court, and that this was always the plan.
But
and
Lucian always low-key knew.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he was
very
playing along
suspicious
to get back to Elaine.
Yeah.
In hindsight.
He's playing the game, baby.
Yeah, hey, he learned a few things or two. I'm proud of him.
He grew up, our little Lucian.
And then the other thing that he says is they have like a back and forth, and he's like, you were right, that girl I knew did die under the mountain.
And I love the last description of that chapter, too. And in the distance, so faint, I thought I might have imagined it. A beast's roar cleaved to the land.
That'd be Tamlin. He might have found a very distraught Ianthe.
And his missing bride and
can
best
you imagine
friends.
that phone call with the King of Hybern? So, your nieces and nephew arrived.
They will not be making it back. Ever.
And everything's fine.
And everything's fine. We're all good over here.
That girl that I sold my soul for is gone.
And I'm really starting to regret this.
I think I made a mistake.
She also took my best friend with her.
Oh, we did forget to mention that Tamlin, if he backed out of his agreement with Hybern, would have cost his life.
Mm-hmm. It would drain his power and potentially
Possibly kill him.
Yeah.
We're not gonna miss it.
No.
So final thoughts.
Well,
it's not going to be a straight shot to the Night Court.
yeah,
that's for damn sure.
that is not going to be. I don't envision this journey without any bumps in the road. I guess.
Don't love this journey for her.
I am almost 80,000% positive that we are gonna bump into dear old dad or his brothers that like brutally killed his lover.
Mm-hmm. And Lucian doesn't want to deal with his shitty ass brothers. I wouldn't either.
I don't want him to. They sound awful. Fucking Tweedledee and Tweedlebum or whatever.
Dumb.
Dumb, bum, and idiot.
Yeah.
There's like 8 of those brothers.
Stupid. But yeah, I don't foresee this being a very easy journey to the Night Court. Yeah.
Yeah, to the Night Court.
Yeah, to the Night Court through the Autumn Court. And I don't think this is the last we'll see of Tamlin. I don't think it will, but I don't think he will want Feyre the same way he did at the beginning of this book.
Never.
I think that's over.
She'll definitely make it to the Night Court.
Right.
We just don't know in what capacity. The next section we're going to be recording is chapter 11 through the end of 21.
Yeah.
The start of section 2, which is titled Cursebreaker.
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 All right.
So we'll see you next time. hopefully in one piece, and
And not sleep deprived.
yeah, not sleep deprived. So bye.